So, hello, friends. It's Saturday morning in Thailand, a little after 9 o'clock. I welcome you all. Um, today, uh, uh, Eric, Mr. Potato, has a question. I think it was yours about humor or joking in the Dhamma. Do you have a specific question about that?
Yeah, it's about how it can be not a source, but many frictions arise in the context of joking around. And 2 points I see is that sometimes it's used as a tool to make someone see a perspective or to take something more lightly. But in other, let's say, in another topic, there are issues that people may or may not want to be willing to joke about. And another, let's say, question I had is that if there are topics that, aside from personal preferences, there are topics that in the Dhamma we don't joke about.
Excuse me. We can start off by talking about the suttas, and that most people, when they read the suttas, in fact, all the translators, they do the translations in the sense that this is serious business, folks, and uh, because of the culture, because of translations that both poetry and jokes don't translate well, partly because of the context. But if you're sharp and know what to look for, you will find, in fact, that the sutras are quite heavy with humor. One of the ways that you can see humor is because of the names that people are given. Two of my favorites are Sate, son of a fisherman. Well, what do fishermen smell like? They smell pretty fishy, don't they? So the guys who are, let us say, chastised is because of their fishy attitudes or their fishy knowledge. And so it's kind of funny that Sati, son of a fisherman, would be named that way. He's, by the way, appears in Sutta number 38, where he is the one who says that consciousness uh, goes around experiencing the results of old karma. There's also, I forgot his actual Pali name, but he is known as son of a vulture's keeper. Now, what do vultures do? And so you can see that names are given out according to uh, various things. Normally, the word puta actually means son of. And so Putajana actually is the Buddhist term for low class, ordinary people. And that the word jhana in this regard actually means breaking up or things are in parts. And so Putajana means the son of people who have fallen apart. There are many other places where the Buddha gives a humorous answer, but when we read it in English, it's taken quite seriously. But if you can begin to read the suttas with a humorous attitude, actually looking for the humor, you'll find it. It's there. They have analogies. Many of the stories. One of them, in fact, that we can think of is the simile of the saw, where the Buddha says that even if some bandits take and cut you up with a saw, cut off your arms and your legs, don't have any ill will towards them. Now, Karwan, when he read that, he took it seriously. The Buddha wasn't serious at that time. In fact, I don't think it ever in history have people been captured by a bandit and the bandit took a saw and cut them up. Saws cut up meat after it's dead. So if you're getting cut up with a saw, more than likely you're already dead by the time that they can do that. So there are many places in the suttas where things sound ridiculous, but isn't that what humor is? Is that you're taking things to an extreme so that we can see the extraordinary, the extreme parts to it. So does that answer your question, Eric?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah. So let's be lighthearted and humorous with each other. That in fact that's the best way to teach the Dhamma is by making light. That we're not really heavy. So your second question then was about determination. Can you express that for us?
Yeah, let's give an example with let's say sweets that I crave sweets. It's a habit, and I started practicing the Dhamma. So now that I have practiced a bit, I can see that I've eaten enough sweets and that I'm not really enjoying the experience anymore. And I can naturally stop at that point. No need to make a significant effort, and I can carry out my days without any negative consequences perceived from eating sweets.
Okay.
So, but I'm at a point of the practice where I can imagine not eating sweets at all. And since sugar is one of the white poisons and everything, like it's a net benefit to stop right now. And so yeah, it's about if it's at some point in the practice we make those type of hard this not hard but decisions that required more determination than is natural at the time.
So that's where the word determination comes into it. Okay. So let us say that the earlier that you can catch something, the better. And that goes for all kinds of things. For instance, if your house is burning down, well, if you could catch it when it's just a little electrical fire, or you can catch it when the pan in the kitchen is on fire, you can do something about it. By the time that the whole kitchen is on fire, it's hard to do anything. And by the time that the house is fully up in flame, it's almost impossible to do something about. So, in that regard, about buying sweets, and the way that I had talked about it before was in the sense of buying cigarettes or having cigarettes. And what we mean by this is that if you don't buy the cigarettes, or in your case, you don't buy the sweets in the store, then they're easier to avoid at home. In other words, if there's no candy in the house, then even if you think about candy, you can't get it. But more than likely, out of sight is out of mind. That is only because you open the refrigerator door and there's that box of candy sitting in the refrigerator. That's when your, let us say, determination or your willpower is quite weak. But if you open the refrigerator door and you don't find anything but healthy, wholesome stuff in the refrigerator door, more than likely you're just going to close the door and go about your business. So that's an important point is that if it's not available, That was one of the things that I really got to rely upon when I was at Wat Suan Mo, and that is that the kuti that I was in was 15 to 20-minute walk to the front of the Wat. The likelihood of going to the store in front of the Wat was almost zero because it was just too far to go. Not worth the effort. So, this is a way of managing products like that. Is that if you don't have it, you don't need it. If you don't have it, you're okay without it. So be careful about what you buy. There's another quality with that, and that is that before you go shopping, know what it is that you're going shopping for. We could say that basically the difference I'm talking about here is the difference between hunting and gathering. Women normally go to the store gathering. They go down the aisles and they like something, they'll get that, and they like something here, they'll get that, and next thing you know, their grocery cart is full. But if they gave a shopping list to their husband, he's going to go get what's on that shopping list, and that's all he's going to get. So that's what I would imagine would be good for you is to, when you go shopping, maybe even have a list of stuff that you're going to buy, and then don't buy anything else. Don't even go down the candy aisle. And so you don't buy any candy. And then when you get home, you don't have any trouble. Same thing for cigarettes and alcohol and Maseratis and all kinds of other stuff. If you don't have it, you don't need it. And so let's get to the word determination now, because really what we're talking about is not candy. What we're talking about is unwholesome thoughts. And how do we handle unwholesome thoughts? Because there they are. That's like opening the refrigerator door of the mind, and there's that candy. Do we have the strong determination to shut that refrigerator door? Do we have the and that we've talked about this basically many, many times before, so let's go over it again. That once someone starts to practice correctly by shutting that refrigerator door, by having an unwholesome thought, and then we see that's an unwholesome thought and remove it and gladden the mind, brighten the mind, the next thought is going to be opening that refrigerator door again. And so in this regard, the determination is to shut the door a second time, shut it a third time, throw that unwholesome thought out again and again and again and again. This is what takes some determination. That many times I've heard it. I think that you've even had the thought of, wow, I just cleaned out my mind and I had all the unwholesome thoughts out, and now there's another unwholesome thought pop back up. Oh, poor me. Well, that oh, poor me moment actually is the time that we can say, oh, no, I saw it. I got it again. Out it goes again. Close that refrigerator door again. Over and over and over. This is where real determination comes. So I'll give the analogy of quicksand. Where I lived for about 3 years or more, my family lived there longer, was in Dillon, South Carolina, which was part of the PD swamp. And so everybody in town knew how to handle quicksand. But most people don't. They're not educated in it because it's not a common thing. And you could say then that once you begin to see that you're in quicksand, people will try to pull their foot out. If they pull their foot out, the other sinks deeper. If they try to pull that one out, then the other foot that you pulled out goes back in and it goes in deeper. And we would call that determination, in the sense that you're determined to come out of the quicksand, but in fact, you're just getting yourself deeper and deeper into it. that the correct way of coming out of quicksand is that you have to be wise about it. Begin to float, lay back on your back, and put much of the pressure on the quicksand. Now, you know that if you float in water, quicksand is going to be a whole lot heavier than water, and so it's actually quite easy to float on quicksand. But floating is not the same as standing into quicksand. Floating means that you distribute your weight. We can use that analogy for the way that we practice, in the sense that don't try to force those unwholesome thoughts out of the mind, because that's normally criticism, that we are critical of ourselves. Oh, you should not have that unwholesome thought. Is just putting you deeper into unwholesome thoughts. But if you have the attitude of, oh, I can just lay back, everything is all right, not a problem in the world, I can get myself out of this quicksand really easy, just float. And so this is the way that we can handle our unwholesome thoughts. This is a kind of determination. So we can say then that we need to determine, but do the determination wisely. Always the thought comes up about S.N. Goenka's strong determination sittings in meditation, that no matter what, you're going to spend the whole hour not moving your arms, not moving your legs, and not opening your eyes. And then almost all the students who are not ready for such a practice are in pain. They're making their whole meditation a painful experience, not a joyful experience. That a good meditation teacher will tell you, if your body is in pain, move it in order to get it relaxed. That the whole point of the practice of anapanasati, the body part, is to breathe in long and breathe out long. That's the kind of relaxation right then and there. And get to know the body. And in the analogy that we're having, know that you're standing in quicksand, and then begin to relax. And so step 4 of anapanasati is actually relaxing the body. Now, relaxing the body doesn't take the same kind of determination as trying to pull yourself out of it. So this is an important point about determination. Don't be determined to remove unwholesome thoughts, but you can be determined to not let them come back in. If you're determined to get rid of unwholesome thoughts, you'll go deeper. But after you've come out of those unwholesome thoughts, once you're laying flat on your back in the quicksand, don't stand back up again. Just float on it. And fairly soon the legs will become unstuck, and you can then you can do a back a butterfly motion with your arms and get yourself out. So this is an important point, that if you lay down while you're in the quicksand, you've already solved the problem. This fits in very closely with the distinction between a gradual path and the direct path. The gradual path actually means that people get determined to get rid of their unwholesome thoughts, and they just have more and more unwholesome thoughts, and it's a long slog, a long, slow process. As opposed to the direct path is just to lay back and float. So, Eric, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I was just kind of half-assing the practice in that way.
I didn't quite catch you. Say it again.
Yeah, that last part about being determined to stay out of unwholesome thoughts. I don't know if I had heard it before, but it's a really good tip. That
Okay.
it's a better effort than being determined to get rid of the unwholesome thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the correct determination would be determined to not get back in. But if you're determined to get out, then the getting out is determined actually will get you stuck into it. That's like having unwholesome thoughts about unwholesome thoughts. But once you're out and you have wholesome thoughts, then you can work to maintain those wholesome thoughts. As the sutras talk about, apply and then sustain rather than apply the mind to the wholesome and removing unwholesome thoughts, gladdening the mind, and then gladdening it again, and gladdening it again would be the applying and sustaining, as opposed to uh, sustaining the unwholesome thoughts or letting them come back in. So, this is the way that we can use determination. Uh, Actually, Ivan was correct. So I don't see him on the call right now. Ivan was correct to say that indetermination is actually good if you already are out of all your ill will, out of all your greed, out of all your ignorance. Then we can just truly relax. We don't need any determination. The determination comes at that point for the new person to be able to apply and then sustain the mind, sustain the mind, sustain the mind, keep coming back to the wholesome over and over and over again. Once we can sustain it, that's when we don't need any more determination, that we can let that just relax. So relax in the wholesome. So, Ben, you had a question about love.
Yeah, to be honest, there are a lot of similarities in what we've just talking about with determination and opening the fridge door and everything else. It sort of covered everything just from a different standpoint. Um, yeah, yeah, the mind knows what's going on, really. Just a case of remembering to keep practicing over and over again.
Well, modern day Christianity is really, really stuck on the word love. But Jesus didn't use that word. That in fact, even Paul, when he was using a word, he uses the word agape, and that AG sound, agape, sounds very much like amigo. So instead of using the word love, we can use the word friendliness or friendship. Now, let's make a distinction now between ordinary people, ordinary mind, and a noble mind. And when a noble mind is talking to an ordinary person, we need to understand that they're stuck in their ordinary state. So one student got mad when I said, or he thought I said, I didn't say it, but he thought that I had said, thou shalt not tell your children that you love them. No, no, there's not a problem with saying that. But really, if you're going to be dealing with your kids, the best thing to do is instead of criticizing them and then saying, I love you, the better thing to do is to nurture them, to help them to be in a state of satisfaction, state of comfort, the state of feeling safe and secure, even while they're being, let us say, corrected And we can use that word corrected rather than criticized. If we know nobody likes to be criticized, that's partly the reason why we would choose humor. It's better to joke about something rather than to be hard on ourselves or to hard on anyone. And so this word love has its own issues because it's got very, very many different connotations. It's used for all kinds of things, but primarily the word love has to do with wanting, liking. I like it, I want it, I love it. All right, so this sequence means that mostly, especially in the noble context, word love is almost always identified as clinging, needing, wanting. And so, let us say it's better to be friendly than it is to want friends. Wanting friends means you don't have enough friends. You're already in a state of deprivation. And if you'd love to have friends, what that actually is going to bring about is that you become clingy. This happens a lot in relationships when people want love. And is very deep in our culture. A couple of places. One is in the movie Moulin Rouge, where there is a line that the poet says is that the best thing in the world is to love and to be loved in return. Well, that's very poetic, but we want to love and then be loved in return. And if we're not, then we get kind of clingy. Our love turns into clinging really quickly. This is actually one of the major reasons for divorce, is because the couple are not just friends with each other, but in fact, marriages that last is because we no longer love the partner, but rather that we're great friends with the partner. But if you love and want love in return, then we'll get clingy, and that's the downhill direction towards love. I think, in fact, our last conversation, Ben, you could see that it was hard to live with someone who needs you to love them. Is that right? Or
Yeah.
she needed you to love her.
Yeah.
Okay. The second item would be out of the Beatles. All we need is love. Well, that's not true. We need a whole lot of other things other than love. That in fact, love may not be what we're hoping for anyway. Basically, I would say feeling secure, feeling comfortable is more important than feeling like that you're loved. And this would be then moving from the ordinary world of wanting love, needing love, into the noble mentality. The noble would be one who is already feeling safe and secure and comfortable and satisfied with his life. And in that regard, we don't need love. We don't need to be loved. There we can just use friendship. We can use amigo. This is, in
Yeah.
fact, what we go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, yeah, when during times when I'd have a lot of time to myself and I'd be practicing, and I actually felt more secure, more comfortable, more satisfied in those times than I did during the times when my ex was there, actually.
It's very interesting that our culture has it where, especially teenage boys, they really, really want to, let us say, be secure, have identification. And in our culture, the best way to do that is by having a girlfriend. And so the boys all want to have a girlfriend. Many of the girls, they want to have a boyfriend. And so they'll pick a stranger, they'll fall in love with that stranger, and do not ever approach her for fear of rejection. And so much of the infatuation, in fact, infatuation is a much better word for it than love. We also have words like puppy love and lovesick. We want something so bad, but we're afraid of the rejection, and so we don't actually want to get it. To where it'd be much better for an adult to tell that teenager that you're already okay. If you don't have a girlfriend, you're already better off than you would be if you had one. Because if you do have a girlfriend, she's going to want a whole lot of stuff from you. And what you want from her, you're probably not ever going to get. That in fact, being in love is a mutual hell for both the boy and the girl. Because they're both wanting stuff from each other that they're not getting. And so it's better to just be okay. This is why the Buddha, in fact, I want to make sure that I mention this, the Buddha never used the word love or anything close to it. Just like in the ancient scriptures of the Bible, they didn't use love, but they used friendship. The Buddha used friendship. It looks like it's the modern times that have gotten stuck on the word love. And surprisingly enough, love almost always has to do with lust, really wanting something, clinging for it, gotta have it. And so being in a state of being in love actually is not the way that the musicians talk about it, in the sense of being in love is a wonderful experience. Oh, no, it's not, because we cling to it. It's better to be in satisfaction. Going back, in fact, to that idea of quicksand, being in love means that you're really working hard. You're determined to get your foot out of that, just digging yourself deeper into it. And so relationships are really not what they're cracked up to be if it's based upon love. But if it's based upon friendship and having fun together and not needing anything from either one, is much better. Normally, like I would say before, I'm not saying don't tell your kids that, I'm not saying don't tell them you love them, but rather be careful about how you're using the word. Because many times when you tell a kid that you love them, that's actually placing them under obligation to you to do what they're told to do. They're obligated to love you back. It's not necessary that we treat our children like that, but we have been, let us say, overly indoctrinated into this word love. That in fact, we're all much better off if we don't need to be loved. Now, many people will say in psychotherapy and also in uh, ordinary Dhamma that you can love yourself. But really, if you feel safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied, you don't even need the word love. I have to introduce my favorite song, by the way, in this regard, and that's Tina Turner. How many of you know Tina Turner's song? What's love got to do with it? Yeah, we got somebody there. What's love got to do with it? Love is a second-hand emotion. Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? Those are several of the lines in her song. And you can see that even though it's an upbeat song, it's upbeat because she got out of the love, that when she was in love, she was miserable. She became upbeat and happy when she could see that love has got nothing to do with it. That we have hearts, we open our heart only for it to get broken. What does that mean? That means that if we open our heart and love somebody, we expect them to love us back in return, and that may not happen at all. And in fact, that's what we mean by the fear of rejection. We're afraid that our love is not going to be returned. Well, better not to be in love and need it to be returned. Better just to be okay. That in fact, leaving Hanoi actually solved a problem. Remember that we were talking about opening the refrigerator door and the candy is there in the refrigerator? Right. I think that you closed your Vietnamese door coming to Thailand. So congratulations. That was the right move. I know that nobody
Yes.
else understands the story, but you can get the point.
Yeah,
To
it's
get
just
out of those
the refrigerator door of the mind now that keeps being closed every time it creaks open again.
Yes, okay. And you think about, well, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I shouldn't have left. But in fact, now you're much healthier than you were when you were in Vietnam. At least you've got good food. At least you've got some Wats that you can go to. In Chiang Mai, in fact, I mentioned that Wat. There's a really ancient Wat. It's called Wat Ubon. And Wat Ubon is at least 700 years old, maybe even older. And it's got some caves or some tunnels under a big chetty. And so the monks over the centuries would meditate in there. Now it's a World Heritage Site. In fact, it was closed down and kind of forgotten. But in 1948, a group of monks from Wat Suan Mok went and inhabited the place, and now it's very much alive again. Have you gone to Wat Ubon yet?
Yeah, I
Mr.
visited the day before yesterday. I don't know if I went at just forget what time it was when I went, but the only people there were tourists really, and one monk collecting the entrance fee for the temple. That was it.
That's the thing about monks. If you want to find out how many monks are there at a Wat, the only time you're going to find out that is about 8 in the morning as they come back from Pendabat. All day long, the monks are wise enough to stay away from the front of the Wat, to stay hidden away. Go to your kuti. I mean, the people become ordained, they become monks simply to escape the world. So why don't we take advantage and do just that? Just get away from it all.
Yeah,
So if you want to,
I sort of went
go ahead.
around all of the sort of offices too, and couldn't see anyone there either.
Yeah, that's the way to make your mind. Make your mind as empty as the Wat during the day. Wat Suan Mok is also fairly empty, except at certain times. One of them would be at breakfast time on a Buddha day. The same thing, by the way, at all the Wats that I know of in the United States. When I was a monk in the U.S., we traveled a lot. I was actually part of a delegation, you could call it, that we traveled, especially in the Laotian community from Wat to Wat. And when we would arrive at a Wat, either we were known to be coming, or if we showed up, there would always be nobody around. We'd have to go search them around. But after we go back to a Wat second or third time, that means that we know where to find people. But that's the thing about a Wat. So, congratulations. You just proved an important point that there's nobody there. That means that the whole place was yours. If you were looking for people or looking for love, you're not going to find it.
Dhammarato, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
What about so-called unconditional love?
Well, let's look at the word unconditional as opposed to the word love. Normally, in fact, love has to do with it in the sense of you love me in return, or I want feedback, or I want something in return. But unconditional means that you're just going to be friendly, even if they're not friendly back. That we don't need to put conditions upon things. An example of that would be loaning money, especially loaning money to a relative. If you loan money to a relative, don't put any conditions on it like you're going to get paid back, because the relatives are probably not going to pay you back. You have to see that as a gift. And so gift giving would then be unconditional, as opposed to conditional love, which would mean I want it back. I want your love back in return. Or another way of saying it, you've got to laugh at my jokes, whether you think they're funny or not. So this is how we would use the word unconditional. And by the way, unconditional love is not what the Buddha would teach. The Buddha would teach instead friendliness and openness, especially in the sense of gift giving. Don't expect that you give a gift so that you can get one in return. Rather, we just give gifts. That in fact, compassion and gift giving go hand in hand if you've got the right use of the word compassion. Normally, the word compassion, by the way, means with the Latin means with passion. So if somebody's having a pity party, what they want, misery loves company. They want you to join their pity party. Maybe you don't want to join their pity party. Maybe you can bring some joy, some laughter, but don't expect them to become joyful right away. They may, in fact, get really angry at you for being fun when they're having so much misery. So I would say that unconditional love would not be a word that we have much use for. Rather, just look at the fact that we put conditions on things. An example would be like sheep, his mother puts the condition that if she pays for his college tuition, he's got to pass the courses. But really, the conditions that she's putting on him is the condition of pressure. She's putting on conditions of anger. She's putting conditions on him not to be free to choose and live his life, and she's supporting him. She's not unconditional with that. That's a heavy duty condition that she's putting on him. So let's break those apart. Let's not use the word unconditional and love together. Let's break those out and use the word unconditional and stop putting conditions on other people and on ourselves. That in fact, you could say that that conditioning that we're putting on is very similar to the same thing as the determination. So if she's going to pay for his tuition, she's determined that he do good, that he give her back the results. And so she's going to fuss and fight and fume and be angry at him and say, I'm not going to support you next semester and all this kind of stuff, jerking him around. That in fact, there's a word that's used in psychotherapy for that. It's called crazy makers. When mothers are crazy makers, that means that they're putting too many conditions on their kids. They lie to them and then expect the child to not lie back. So, in our practice, we can say that we can become unconditional for ourselves by being okay. This is the statement that the Buddha made when he saw Myra was, aha, Aha! Aha! I see you, Mara. He did not say, oh, I should not have any Mara thoughts. I should not have any unwholesome thoughts. He didn't say it like that. He was very joyful. That, in fact, probably the biggest joke that the Buddha ever told was that joke. Aha! I see you, Mara. Aha! I'm having fun here. You can't bother me. You can't touch me. And so, live our lives as humorous. Let's stop putting conditions on things, expecting results. Instead, let's expect to have fun doing what we're doing. And that's especially true when it comes to initial practice. The practice of anapanasati is the practice of enjoying the practice. Learn to enjoy it. So when you gladden the mind, and then you open the refrigerator door again, and then you can say, ha ha, I caught that refrigerator door open. Let me close it again. This is correct practice, is to practice with everything is already okay. Everything is fine. No need to put conditions on anything. So, Willie, do you have some comments?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I've picked that up from some of your online teachings, and I actually got to use it today. I was over in the next city over and going through a parking lot, and this truck just kind of real aggressively came at me, even though I had the right of way, and he was just kind of pushing me, and immediately I kind of got a little aggravated, and then I went and said, "Oh, I see that. I see you." And I said, "Oh, maybe he's just having a bad day," and just gladdened, and drove on. Didn't let it worry me. So it was a good thing. Thank you.
Okay. Eric, what do you have to say?
I'm liking the analogy of the quicksand. And I've been swimming. It's like I'm thinking about floating, and I relate it also to the analogy of being on top of your pile of shit. But it's like more in the tactile realm now.
That's a
I
good
can just
point. Thanks for making that. Okay. What he's referring to is the story that everyone, each one of us, is an emperor of our own pile of dirt. But most people live their lives buried under their pile of dirt, or if they're spiritual and practicing Dhamma or Christians or whatever, then they're struggling to get out of their pile of dirt. But what we're referring to here is with the correct practice of the Dhamma, we just float to the top, being on top of the world, being on top of the quicksand, being on top of life, rather than being buried under it or being sucked down into it. Let's just live our lives happily. Nothing is important, no place to go, nothing to do. Everything is all right. And then we close that refrigerator door again. Over and over and over again, we close that refrigerator door of the mind of the unwholesome. We remember, hey, there's candy in there. Hey, there's cigarettes in there. Hey, there's all kinds of unwholesome stuff in there, including criticism. Hey, there's criticism in there. Don't open that door. Or if you find yourself with that door open, just go ahead and close it. Never mind, I don't need that. Everything is fine. Everything is beautiful. Not a problem in the world.
I don't feel like a drop of water in the ocean. I feel like a drop of grease in a bucket of water.
Ah, but you're the whole bucket.
I'm the grease on top.
All right. So, Nick, good to see you again. It's been a long time, friend. What do you have to say?
Can't hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can see your microphone is on, but I don't hear you. All right. So, Anna, good to see you, friend. I'm really glad you keep coming back and coming back. I'm really glad to see you.
I'm doing Anapanasati retreat tomorrow, so I will try to follow your directions. I will very much try to follow the direction, not to be that intense anymore. Very hard, but I'm trying.
Good one. So, Navid, what do you think?
Yes, sir, Mr. Dhammarato. It's always a pleasure to be here. I cannot, every time, the week passes, I forget how wonderful it is. Then I come back and I'm like, this is amazing. But I'm going through this crazy COVID phase, and all my kids have it, my wife and I. But somehow I end up taking it harder. And I think it's just my mind, because I try to gladden my mind and I see that, hey, suddenly this pain and whatever it is that I'm just ruminating in my mind goes away, and then I'm not suffering as much. I'm wondering, is it just to gladden your mind over and over? Is that the thing to do?
Yes, that's it. To keep gladdening it over and over and over again. As you possibly heard me say before, you have spent your whole life talking yourself into feeling bad. Now it's
Yes,
time to talk yourself into feeling good over and over and over and over again.
amazing. Yeah,
Because the habit is to go immediately back to the old way of thinking. An example of that is, wow, I feel good right now. And then the thought immediately after that, but I could feel better. Let me feel better.
amazing.
There's that
Yeah,
determination rather than the acceptance of this is okay. So if you're sick, then let yourself be sick. Enjoy being sick. Don't try to make it better.
yeah,
You're already okay. Sick and all.
unbelievable. I would have thought you were a crazy man, but you were completely right, sir.
Everything is all right. Everything is okay. Not a worry in the world, even if you're sick. Yeah, I'm sick. Oh, I'm so sick. I'm having so much fun being sick.
Amazing.
Ivan, you've joined us finally. And this time you're riding a motor scooter.
Yeah. I don't know how to ride a scooter, but yeah.
So, Alex, what do you have to say?
Not a whole lot. Everything's pretty good. Pretty happy.
Everything is already good, huh? All right.
Mhm.
Would you laugh if today if I told you I love you, man?
Obviously, huh?
How about you, Tim? What you do? What do you think?
Yeah, nice talk. I think it's always good to laugh at Mara and maybe shut the door and don't let Mara in.
Yes, that's the right attitude, is just laugh at Myra. Laugh at your troubles. If you're sick, oh, I'm so sick. Well, I'm so sick I can't do anything. Let me just lay here and be sick. Let me be the sickest person in this room. Just be okay. It's all right to be sick. So, Karan, tell me about it.
I'm enjoying the talk, Dhammarato, like always. And I like what you said about that even Jesus, he did not thought about love, but he was teaching about the friendship and friendliness. And yeah, very nice.
Let's see. Kimika, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I was just thinking about you kind of answered the question, but just thinking about how to gladden the mind when in the face of physical pain or emotional pain, like intense pain. Just kind of sit with it and accept it. But it still makes me feel like how difficult it must be to like be okay with it in the face of like experiencing such suffering or such pain.
Well, you mentioned two different kinds of things. One was physical pain, and the other one was emotional pain. That's like getting shot with two different arrows. The right thing to do is that if you're in physical pain, okay, I'm all right. Yeah, it hurts. Oh, the butt hurts. Oh, the leg hurts. Oh, whatever it is that hurts, it hurts. But that's okay. But when we don't like it, that's when we stab ourselves with the second arrow. In fact, you could go so far as to say it hurts is already an emotional reaction to it. You could also say it's pain, that in fact, pain is an emotional word. That generally, because of S.N. Goenka, he invites us to use the word sensation. Wow, I've got such a sensational butt right now, as opposed to, wow, my butt hurts. Oh, my poor butt, it hurts. Rather than that, we can say, wow, it's sensating. I got a sensational butt. So when somebody's a pain in the ass, we can say, wow, you're sensational. Let's make it light. Let's turn it into a joyful thing. Always with, I can handle this. Yeah, so what if the butt hurts? I can handle it. I can take care of this. I can do this. That's that change of attitude from the attitude of, oh, poor me. Oh, my butt hurts. Oh, I'm in such pain. Oh, I'm miserable. That's emotional. We could come out of that immediately with the change of attitude from the attitude of a victim to the attitude of a winner. I can handle this. My butt's sensational right now. I can handle that. So, Mikey just left. He's got a class at 10, and so he just left. The recordings are still on. He's still online, but I'm going to call on Alex. Alex, will you bring this thing to an end for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and out with us tonight and having such a good talk. You know that we're here on this YouTube channel. We also have the Dhamma Friends Discord links in there and some links to our Open Sangha Foundation website, where you can go on through, create an account, talk with other members of the community and such. We encourage everybody to check those out and to keep on coming through and hanging out with us. Thanks so much, everybody.
Does anybody have any last things to say? Eric, Nick, Lily. All right. Thank you all. We'll see you next time. I'm glad you're here,
Thank
Willie.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Come
Dhammarato.
earlier, Ivan. You got a motorbike. Get here sooner.
I will.